Hello, it is a pleasure to be back with you today after this nice coffee break. I would like to maybe bring a little bit the helicopter view of some of the key topics that relate to plant variety protection and UPOV membership and how they relate to key matters on the Sustainable Development Goals. When I was preparing for this presentation, I thought also it might be beneficial to bring one particular UPOV member, to have a particular focus of one UPOV member and the relationship on the Sustainable Development Goals. And I thought it might be a good opportunity to bring the experience of Kenya in the floricultural industry. So I will give you a more general overview, some of the examples, and then we will have a deep dive to the particular situation of Kenya. This is an image that brings me and some of us in this room to a particular moment where we celebrated in UPOV the membership of Ghana. Ghana became UPOV member very recently. And here in the slide, you have the Vice Minister of Justice addressing the Council of UPOV. And in the opening remarks of Ghana, there was this very powerful message that Ghana's membership of UPOV is critical to its food, nutrition, and security, as well as meeting its national development goals. And it was part of the national policies of this country that the journey to amend the law to become UPOV member became a priority. If we put the work of UPOV and its members in the context of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, we see some key messages that are important for us. That food is sufficient, safe, affordable, and nutritious, that there is sustained and inclusive economic growth, social development, environmental protection, and the eradication of poverty and hunger, and the development and the application of technology are climate sensitive and respect of biodiversity and are resilient. How we relate this bigger, I will say, framework that guides in the work that is done both at the international level, but at the national level, public and private. So we have these 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are at the heart of many strategies and policies being developed and implemented. And I will take some of them that are more relevant for the work related to UPOV. So as you will see, the presentation will focus on Sustainable Development Goal 1, no poverty, second, zero hunger, 9 in relation to technology, infrastructure, innovation, 12 about responsible also environment and protection, 15 life on land, and then 17 partnerships and goals. Let's look into the first one, no poverty. So we have seen how the tremendous growth in agricultural productivity in various parts of the world is based in 2 key areas that are relevant for our work: improve varieties and improve farming practices. They come hand by hand. You may recall the example that I was giving to you about UC Davis, California on strawberries. That was a key example where access to new varieties through license was coming with improved practices to make it beneficial for farmers and growers, the commercialization of those and the production of those strawberry varieties. Here, let me go back. One example that comes from another part of the world is Peru. And Peru, there is, as a new UPOV member, also bound by the 1991 Act, has also an economy that is very based on agriculture. And as you can see, There is one particular value chain that I would like to highlight here, is the one dealing with blueberries. Since Peru became a UPOV members, there are more than 60 new varieties of blueberries protected. And now Peru is one of the #1 exporters of blueberry varieties all over the world. And we know the importance of that particular crop for food and nutritious purposes, but also is becoming a key, I would say, sector of the economy that also provide a lot of the development goals. Another example, this one take us to Japan. And if you're interested in this example, there is a very nice video that is available on the UPOV website that tells the branding strategy of Ashiro Rindo that was based on plant breeders' rights. As you may recall, this particular group of farmers, they were mainly rice farmers, and I would say they were somehow a little bit of subsistence farmers because they could not live the whole year from farming rice varieties. They actually had to work in the capital during the season where they were not doing rice production, and they had to sustain the life of the families with additional jobs than just being rice growers. So from that point of view, this group of farmers from this remote area in Japan, they realized that they were really having some ornamental plants that had quite an interest, these Ashiro varieties, and they developed new varieties of these ornamental plants that had also some religious, I would say, role in certain ceremonies in Japan. So they could meet some of the demand of the local market in Japan. But their strategy developed through plant variety protection in a way that in addition to meet some of the demands of the local Japanese market, they realized that their varieties were also of interest in Europe. So they could protect in the European Union, and then they could export those flowers to the European Union. This small group of farmers organized themselves together with plant breeders' rights also in New Zealand. So they realized due to the different seasons, they could produce these varieties all year long, and they could meet the needs of the market in Japan and Europe all year long. But their strategy did not stop there. They use also plant variety protection to protect in another UPOV member, Chile, because they realized there was a potential also of market in the North of Americas in the United States. So through the production in Chile, they could also export to the United States. So again, this is a situation of a group of farmers that were really mainly subsistence farmers, rice farmers, and they could develop a whole different strategy on these ornamental new varieties using both plant breeders' rights and trademarks. And that branding strategy was also key for their development. And there is a third generation now from this story that they have access to education, access to university. So it really provides a development objective for this community. Another example that I would like to come is about zero hunger, because new plant varieties with improved yield, plant pest and disease resistance, they adapted when they are salt and drought tolerance, and better adaptation to climatic stress are also key for the objective to zero hunger. And one of the key objectives of new plant varieties, and we saw, is producing more better with less and in more challenging conditions. I was discussing during the coffee break with some of the representatives here that this is also a very important topic in Thailand. Climate change is affecting many aspects of the economy, not only in the agricultural sector, but also tourism and other sectors that are key for, I would say, producing the income that is necessary for the country. Innovation is at the heart of plant variety protection, at the heart of breeding. So this is the key UPOV mission. And in that regard, I highlight again the importance to provide for increased incentives for investment in breeding, and also access to these new varieties to continue progress in breeding. This symbol, this graphic that explains the breeder's exemption is also taken from a very interesting video about diversity of tomato. Tomato is a very important crop, and it was mentioned before by the speaker from TASTA, but also is very important for other UPOV members. And in this video that is available in the UPOV website explains also the diversity of tomato and the journey of the Netherlands in this particular area, and how through the request by consumers to have different types of tomato that will meet the needs of the consumers, it is an industry with a very high investment in research and development. And that is possible because there is an effective protection. Another key element is how new plant varieties play a role in the context of climate change and the user's needs. And in this regard, I would like just to give you one particular example of maize breeding that is taking place in Kenya. And as you can see, there is a performance of drought-tolerant maize varieties. And this is one of the key areas that is being investment is made in different UPOV members. And I would like to highlight that we were in the International Seed Congress a couple of years ago in South Africa. I think it was Cape Town, the host. And one key message is that we all need to work together, policymakers, private sector, in order to address the challenges of climate change. It is, I think, is a common objective for all of us. Here I will come to life on land, and the important is how new plant varieties are key to increase productivity and product quality in agriculture whilst minimizing the pressure on the natural environment. I would like to give one story, this time from Argentina. In Argentina, they also are parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. They understand the importance of protecting and conserving wild plants. And this story tells the journey of the National Breeding Institute of Argentina. They actually have come into agreement to have access to some genetic material from wild plants in Argentina, and accessing that material, they actually were able to develop new varieties of these ornamental plants, and they were able to protect those varieties through plant breeders' rights. But they got an agreement with the provinces of Argentina that are responsible for the conservation of genetic resources, and they agree that when the Public Research Institute of INTA commercialized these new varieties that they were developed by INTA and protected by plant breeders' rights, they will send 50% of the royalties to the provinces of Argentina to facilitate the conservation, I would say, policy. And then in the same regard, because the access is done in a minimum quantity just to enable breeding, they also provide very good ways to avoid erosion or loss of their habitat, and there is a very good contribution for the conservation of the native natural resources. I know this is a very important part of the policy in Thailand. I'm aware that your current law provides not only for plant variety protection, but also for the protection and conservation of genetic resources. So this is one example how these two aspects are complementary to each other and could provide very good synergies, positive synergies, if you have both an effective plant variety protection system and also provide effective mechanisms for protection and conservation of genetic resources. One of the elements that I would like to share with you is that it's very important that these treaties that deal with very important policy areas work together in a complementary way. And you can see here in this slide, there are several UPOV members that are also party to those other treaties. So that means it is possible to implement them in a complementary manner. Now I'm moving to the last element of the presentation, where we'll have a little bit of more focus on the situation of Kenya, because I thought let's give an example where we have all these different elements coming together in relation to how plant variety protection could be an enabler of other, I would say, policy areas. So the Kenya horticultural industry is based on access to new varieties from around the world, mainly UPOV members, in order to promote agricultural trade. So as we know, Kenya is a leading exporter of clad flowers because breeders of roses feel confident to have the new varieties protected in Kenya. KEFIS is the Plant Variety Protection Office and has played a key role on ensuring that there is effective protection and also effective enforcement. The conditions in Kenya are quite important because the altitude is very good to provide larger rose heads and better quality of flowers. Relevant locations is around 2,400 meters above sea level. Why for Kenya was important to join the 91 Act and also being UPOV member? Because it was sending a clear message to breeders that have given this impressive development in Kenya, because then it provides the trust and the legal basis for these financial and other resources, and they know that that will provide a safe environment to invest, because the first economical return will come probably after an average of 7 years. So you need to have the basis that will enable the development of the varieties, but also the promotion and the commercialization of the varieties. So in total for rose, if you take around 7 years to develop, but then 7 years to commercialize, then it's around 14 years. So you need to have the value chain that trusts that particular framework. So that was the key message that was given by some of the rose breeders that brought the best varieties to Kenya. In order to, it was fundamental for the growers and propagators being given a successful exploitation of those varieties. But then, how that translates back to the socio-economic development goals, how the rose industry has helped to support the rural livelihoods. It's an important source of employment, and also it provides employers working in that particular area to be able to take the kids to school and also to help the parents linked to the particular social circumstances of Kenya. But also is access to education that is very important. The development of the industry has inspired future breeders. Some of them have obtained a diploma as agricultural engineers, and they can also be breeding and developing new varieties in Kenya and selling to the growers linked to the particular sector that has been developed. Also very important is the technology transfer to Kenyan. At the beginning, there was mainly, this knowledge was coming from companies from outside Kenya, but then little by little, this knowledge, not only in the breeding, but also how to be successful producers of these roses, was transferred to the Kenyans. So now there are more Kenyans playing a key role in the breeding programs and also playing a key role in the management and the leading role in this particular sector. Just to conclude, I would like, in relation to employment creation, this industry employs at least 500,000 people, but impacts 2 million people in the sector. There is more than 40% of the agricultural workforce in the rural communities that are women, providing also employment opportunities for women and also for the youth. And it's around 60% of the workflows in the flower sector. As you can see, that also translates on wealth creation. Around 5,000 hectares dedicated to flower cultivation, exploits over 2,000 tons of flowers annually with a value of 900 million and contributes to 1.3% of the Kenyan's GDP. I just want to conclude by saying this is one of the examples that I could see that could also make a change in some of the strategic areas of Thailand, where you would like to come a sea hub for tropical fruits, but with tropical flowers, I think there's a huge potential. I had the opportunity to see some of the beautiful flowers that are grown here in Thailand. So I could see how this could be a key driver of your economic growth, even when there are challenges. Because in the case of the Kenyan industry, even during the COVID, they had to find other ways to get the flowers to the export markets. So they developed an initiative of sea trade to be able to also get the flowers not through planes, because it was not possible, some of the planes were not possible to fly during the COVID times. So because the industry was very solid, they could find other ways to find investment in trade and commercialization. So the whole sector continued to blow. They also promote sustainable floriculture and create certification programs such as fair trade. And again, it is a key driver both of rural and urban development, with very important sectors impacting, like tourism and education. And I think those also are very important sectors in the case of Thailand. So I thought about sharing this example as a way to inspire us in our conversations. Thank you for your attention.